Hello and welcome to SYSTRAcast, the podcast from SYSTRA covering all things transport, infrastructure and more. I'm Gemma, your host today, and today's special episode is brought to you from our office in Dublin, Ireland, and we'll be focusing on how our SYSTRA specialists have been supporting the planning, funding and delivery of effective transport solutions, the challenges and opportunities ahead as the country moves towards its climate change goals, and our plans for growth in the market. My guest today is Ian Byrne. He's our newly appointed Managing Director for the Ireland consultancy business. So let's get going. And welcome to you, Ian.
Hello, Gemma. It's great to be here.
Oh, well, thank you very much for joining us. We know you're a very busy guy over here in Ireland with all the growth and the opportunities that we've got. So let's get started by learning a little bit more about you, though. Tell us about your career so far and maybe some of your highlights.
So I started with SYSTRA in 2006. Where I joined from the Dublin Transportation Office, which is now the National Transport Authority today. So my background, I guess, is in transport modelling and appraisal and business cases. That's what I started off doing with SYSTRA, and ever since then I've developed my career further into different areas. So SYSTRA, when we started, I guess in 2006, we were quite small. There was myself and one other. Mm-hmm. And today we've grown up to over 40 people in Ireland, and we've an office in Dublin and an office in Cork. So we've expanded quite, I guess, rapidly over the last 5 years. We've broadened out the kind of work that we do. And we've got involved in some quite significant projects over my time with SYSTRA. So an example being Metrolink. So I particularly have been involved in Metrolink and Metro North since 2006. I've been involved in it 4 times. We've also been involved in Bus Connects in Dublin and in Cork. For example, in Dublin, we were part of the EIR team that delivered that quite successfully. And we're currently doing that in Cork as well. And we're also part of the client partner team for Bus Connects in Dublin, which are our colleagues in Arup and in Jacobs. And we're also working in rail as well. We've recently been commissioned with our partners Aegis on a JV arrangement for the single provider framework with Irish Rail, and that's started this year. So I think we'll make a difference with that framework to support Irish Rail in the large ambition they have in delivering rail projects across Ireland. I guess what is interesting about my career, and particularly with SYSTRA, is that it reflects the journey that I think Ireland is on with regard to the development of and delivery of sustainable infrastructure across Ireland. We've been through a lot of planning phases of big infrastructure, such as I mentioned, Metrolink and DART Plus on the rail side. As well as on Bus Connects as well, we're planning to roll out quite significant infrastructure in Dublin and in Cork and the rest of the big cities around Ireland. And I guess being involved in the planning phase for probably, I've been with SYSTRA for 19 years. I'd say 15 years of that has been heavily involved in the planning stages of these big projects. And now we're starting to see those projects now being delivered, which is great. So we're eager to be involved in the rollout of those projects and support the likes of National Transport Authority, Transport Infrastructure Ireland and Irish Rail and local authorities across Ireland in I guess, delivering the sustainable transport projects. And we're quite passionate about doing that.
Excellent. And as you say, sometimes these things, they don't happen particularly quickly sometimes in transport. It's the long game that we've got to play. So you've mentioned there, since you started with SYSTRA 19 years ago, just a couple of people, now around 40 colleagues based over here in Ireland. Tell us a little bit more about how that growth has come about and how the expertise of our specialists over here in Ireland has really positioned SYSTRA to win these great projects you've been talking about.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, we started off with just myself and one other person in Dublin. So and we did grow quite rapidly at the start, but then we went through the Ireland went through a crash, as we all know, in 2010. So things contracted quite a bit in terms of investment in transport in Ireland. But since I guess 2013, we've seen a rapid growth. Both in terms of investment in infrastructure in Ireland and the planning of that investment, and we've played a key role in that. So I was keen to bring in very capable people to help grow the market what we have here, and we got some really clever people that work for us in SYSTRA in Dublin and in Cork. So everything from what I'm passionate about is modelling and appraisal, business cases, right through to infrastructural design, particularly on active travel. We have a very strong active travel team that we developed over the last number of years, and we have, we're involved in some commissions now with TII, and we're hoping to help them, develop some of the things they want to do on active travel nationally. And then with the NTA and the local authorities, as I mentioned, they're investing large sums of money in local transport schemes to help support sustainable transport, particularly with walking and cycle infrastructure. So we are investing a lot of effort in the people that we have in terms of upskilling to enable us to help our clients, and bringing, as I said, clever people into what we do, and we're investing in the team that we have here to grow it. So we have grown quite rapidly, I guess, over the last 4 years, particularly from 20 colleagues to over 40. I think we're actually at 45 colleagues now. So, and we've opened up an office in Cork recently in the last 2 years to help us branch out into the rest of the country outside of Dublin. So it's we're going through a rapid growth phase, and we do have a lot of experts in different areas of what we do: modelling, development infrastructure, business cases, active travel design. We do a lot of other things as well, which are niche specialisms, such as on the bus side. We have a very strong bus planning team, and we do a lot of fares and integrated ticketing assessment work for the NTA as well. So we've quite a broad range of activities that we are involved in Ireland.
Fantastic. As you say, a really exciting time over the past few years with that growth, with those great people on board the team. Been fortunate to spend some quality time with everybody over here over the past few days. What's the position? What's the position that's coming up? I suppose you've mentioned active travel, sustainability. Ireland, as the rest of the UK and right across the world, has many challenges in developing and delivering sustainable transport solutions that are looking at carbon reduction, enabling active travel, encouraging people to use the private car less, supporting development as well. So how are we now placed to support our clients on addressing some of these challenges?
Well, we have been involved in quite... We delivered the 5 cities demand management study for the Department of Transport, so we were the people that delivered that for them, and that set out a roadmap for how do you a pathway to changing driver travel behaviour, and trying to influence people how they travel, to encourage people to use more sustainable modes with a view to try and reducing carbon emissions. So we did that work for the Department of Transport, and recently we completed a project for the National Transport Authority, which is looking at expanding that further, the work we did with the Department of Transport, to look at right down to a scheme level. What is a scheme that you would put in place to help support reduction in carbon emissions in the Greater Dublin area? So that's work is ongoing for the last 2 years, and it will be finished over the next couple of months. So and that's like a roadmap for how we go about changing people's behaviours to support carbon reduction from transport emissions particularly. And that's quite a challenge, because it's we do have targets for 2030 that we have to meet as part of our commitment that we've made to the EU with regard to carbon reduction. So some of the things that we're involved in, particularly this demand management study that we've undertaken for both the Department of Transport and for the National Transport Authority, is really important, because on one hand we have the delivery side of infrastructure that is needed to provide choice for people to travel on public transport and sustainable modes such as walking and cycling, but on the other side there has to be measures put in place to help frame how all that's going to work, and demand management plays a key role in that. So we looked at things like international best practice from the rest of the world, what's happened in the UK, what's happened in Europe, to see what lessons can be learned from what are the best ways to deliver these things.
And what's been the appetite and the sort of interest across the country, both from the funding perspective to look at and deliver these active travel sustainable transport projects, but also from communities, from people using buses, trains, getting on their bike more? Are we seeing a shift?
There is a shift. I think that there's always it's a bit of a mindset change as well with people. Like, some of the measures that are put forward, particularly on Bus Connect is a good example, where it's a combination of of significant improvements to bus movement across the network, giving higher priority to bus. But many of the measures are focused on walking and cycling, and the treatment of junctions to make them safer for pedestrians and cyclists, and for all users through the junctions, not just people who are visually impaired, all that kind, all users. And some of the changes are quite significant, and I guess it's been able to sell the benefits to people is crucial, because it's not obvious. It's obvious to practitioners like myself, because we're involved in this and we understand ultimately what this will provide to people on the ground. But to the people who are going to use the network, it might be obviously clear, and particularly people who are drivers, who are the ones you're trying to encourage to use public transport and to walk and cycle. They're the ones that we're trying to convince to shift and to switch to these modes. So the message needs to be clear, the benefits need to be clearly articulated to them. And I think the wider benefits to society will be quite large. There'll be well-being benefits, getting more people to walk and cycle, health benefits associated with that, and then generally from as we already mentioned, the reduction in emissions and so on is going to be quite significant from this. So I think on a strategic level, Bus Connects, I think, will have a profound impact on people's behaviours in the city, and that in combination with the other big schemes that are being proposed, such as Metrolink and the big rail schemes such as DART Plus, and then the other extensions that are being proposed to the Lewis network, the light rail network, to Finglas, to Lucan, and in Cork, light rail as well. There's loads of really interesting projects that are being proposed that will make a big difference to how people travel in the cities, and in the not so urban areas and rural areas. There's greenways being proposed, and these have been really successful as well for cycling, from a leisure tourist side of things as well. So it's quite an exciting time, and it's not just the big cities. There's a lot of money being spent at local level, across villages and towns as well. So I think there's something like 365 million per annum being spent just on local improvements to facilitate better walking and cycling. So it's quite an exciting time to be involved in Ireland in this, and I think we're here to play our part and help our clients, NTA, TII, Irish Rail and so on, local authorities, help them deliver these big changes.
Excellent to hear. And talking of, we're here to support and to make these changes and to create sustainable, great transport solutions. As we mentioned at the start, you're in a newly created role now of Managing Director for the Island Consultancy business. But alongside your aims and your goals for growth on the consultancy side, we're also bringing more of the engineering expertise into Ireland through our SYSTRA colleagues as well. We spoke to Jean-Michel Najar on the podcast as well, from his perspective as the engineering lead on that. So what does that mean for SYSTRA in Ireland and how we can offer more to our clients?
Yeah, I guess up to now, as you mentioned, consultancy has been the main focus of what we do. So that would mean the early phase view of projects in terms of their feasibility, the assessment, appraisal, and why you should do something. So we have been heavily involved in strategy developments across all the major cities for the last 15 years in Ireland. So we're well versed in that space. Now, as I mentioned, we are moving to the delivery phase. So delivery phase is the later phases of projects. Now, we are developing that capability in Ireland. We have it in the UK and the rest of the world. SYSTRA Group has a reach of up to 12,000 people worldwide. So we have that capability to deliver on the engineering side. So we are developing that capability, and we are getting involved in those projects for the likes of Irish Rail and for the likes of NTA as well. So we are expanding our capability in that area.
And that must bring so many synergies, efficiencies, and so much understanding of the whole life cycle of a project as well that can ultimately benefit clients and communities. Absolutely,
and it's great when you're speaking to a client, because even when you're talking about the high level delivery of a strategy, looking at rail scheme, for example, it's good to be able to explain what this may look like on the ground and some of the pros and cons of delivery of something later on. So it's just trying to showcase the full range of understanding that we have, right from the early phase feasibility of something right through to what it might look like on the ground and the complication of doing something like that.
Fantastic. Ian, it's been great to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, for sharing your experience through your career and talking us through the opportunities for Ireland and for SYSTRA in this market. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Gemma. It's great to be here.
So thank you to you all for listening today. Don't forget that you will find all of our episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, and wherever else you get your podcasts. You can stay in touch between episodes by visiting our website. It's systra.com/Ireland, and you can sign up to our newsletter there. And don't forget, you'll also find us on all the major social media channels, including LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and more. Thanks again for listening, and bye for now.